Right, I'm just going to step away for a second, get myself a drink and that, and I'll be back in a minute or so. I am back. How is my audio level? Sound alright? Perfect. Is there a way of instantly swapping to another car, or is it just a case of cycling through them? So in the so instead of cycling through different cars, we're just pressing shift right. Is there a way of saying I want to go straight to car number 18 or whatever? Oh yeah, I see. Okay, so I was in the I'd already pressed drive, so that might be why I couldn't see the mouse. Cheers. Yeah, ready whenever. Give me like a 10-second warning, that would be nice. Hello everyone, welcome back to another round of Carib Sim Motorsport ACC Championship. It's round 5, which means we're at Misano, and as you might be able to currently see, the GT3s are currently heading round in qualifying. It's the last 8 minutes and 22 seconds currently, so we'll just hop on board with a few as they go around and just see how they get on. So this round is going to be the biggest field we've had to date. 21 cars involved, ranging from GT3s to GT4s as well. So this also means this is the first multi-class event in Carib Sim Motorsport's ACC history, which is a very exciting time. So currently, the way qualifying has been done, the first 20 minutes of the qualifying session were dedicated to the GT4s. So they had the track to themselves. They didn't have to worry about any GT3s trying to shove it down the inside when they weren't wanted. And in the last 20 minutes is dedicated to the GT3s, where they can go around without having to worry about having to shove it down the inside of a GT4. So just makes life a little easier for everyone. So, currently, leading the way is Wilhelm Weyrich. He is coming off the back of a strong win at Bathurst, and before that at Paul Ricard as well. He is most likely the favourite to win this round, if we're being totally honest, and for all amongst friends. Sitting second, Grant Willemot in his Aston Martin GT3, and then Oscar Sandberg in his Bentley, who is, well, take that away from me, Oscar has just set the fastest time so far. So now Oscar's leading the way. He's pushed Wilhelm and Grant down a couple of places. So, as I said, the GT4s have already done their rounds, and it finished like this. So in first place for the GT4s is Kirk Heath, number 38 car. In second, Dami Ayo, the 111 Mercedes AMG. In third place, Nelson Addison, the 97 car in the BMW M4. In fourth place, Michael Somnizia in the 531 Porsche Cayman. And then the last of the GT4 grid, Kevin Manning in his Aston Martin V8 Vantage. And we also had a late join in Jamal Codrington, who is also in the Porsche Cayman, but he unfortunately was not able to set a time due to joining late. But the race is an hour long, so there'll be plenty of time for him to make up some places there. So when the grids come around, we will go through those GT4s again in case you missed that. But as we approach the last 5 minutes of qualifying for the GT3s, a couple of the guys had just come in, perhaps just a fresh set of rubber, I should say, before they go out and do their one final lap, drain the tanks, fresh set of pads maybe, and then see what they can do. So Oscar Sandberg, one of those people heading out now in his pink Bentley. The last time I commentated this, I did enjoy his pink shenanigans. I hope he's wearing pink gloves again. Another one was Omar Badu. I believe he came into the pits as well. Or it was Jamal, actually, his namesake. In the 78 Aston Martin, short just behind Oscar Sandberg. Again, heading round. Jamal currently sitting in 9th place. If we look slightly further back from them, Jeremy Gonzalez in his BMW M6. Slightly further back from him, it looks like Dominic Olivier, currently sitting pretty in 4th place in his Huracan GT3. And we've also had a car change from one of the previous rounds. Derrick Rudder, who was behind, was in the Porsche Cup car, I believe, in the previous rounds, but has switched to the McLaren 720S. So a couple of car changes as well, just to freshen things up. Now, Misano, interesting circuit, fabled by some drivers to not have many overtaking zones, in that all the corners link together. If you're stuck behind through one, you're going to probably be stuck behind through the others. It's important to note as well that track limits of this track are very strict. There are a couple places that you can run wide. It's about finding that point over in the previous practice sessions. In qualifying, they'll be pushing those track limits to their extreme. But it's just settling into a rhythm. Of course, it's all about one lap pace in qualifying, so a couple of extensions here and there, maybe a couple of invalid laps for them. Excuse me, if they are pushing hard. As you could see, I believe that was the car of Jamal Badu just running wide. He's pulled over just to let Dominic Olivier past. He had just run wide, one the back straight, but now underway again. Just got to be careful of dirt on those tyres. So if we just jump now to who is currently leading, Oscar Sandberg. He is currently just coming to the end of his outlap, I believe, after coming out of the pits. So he's currently sitting pretty in first place with a 1:33.369, only a tenth off his teammate Wilhelm Weyrich. They are Turn 1 Pro. They often find them racing together in many leagues around the internet on ACC. So it's good to see they're keeping it up for the Carib Sim Motorsport. So let's just see if we can ride on board now with Oscar as he comes across the line to do a flying lap. Maybe be able to show us the track all of its glory. Into turn 1, hard on the anchors. Turn 2, just a short chicane. You don't want to run it too far to the right because you need to then bring it back in, because you want to keep straighten the car up as much as possible coming into turn 4. Again, hard on the brakes. Interesting set of corners. You don't want to run it all the way over. There's off camber on the exit of that corner, so you don't want to use all of the track. Bring it back across, clack to the curb on the inside, run it out again for the back straight. Sorry, the inside straight. Again, heavy on the brakes, using all of the curb on the right. Try and get it chucked into the left. And running it out on the exit curb. Again, a nice tight hairpin. Late apex on this one. You want to get as much of a late apex as possible, so you can then have as much speed entering the straight as possible. Long straight this at Misano. A couple of kinks in it, but they are. The first one is flat, as we're just about to head through. Take all the curb on the inside. Run it out to the left, and then just hit the brakes just after this kink here. Slow it down a little bit. Trail brake your way in. See if Charlie moves out of the way. She does. Hit the inside curb there. Very difficult corner that, because you find yourself running a bit wide and onto the exit again. You don't want to end up out there. Coming into the last corner, nice flat curb on the inside. Always take plenty of that, but track limits on the outside of that turn is where you're really going to struggle. It's very tempting to just run it out, but as you saw, there were some big black and yellow curbs. So that lap for Oscar, only a very slight improvement, I believe. 133.357. So I believe that'll be him done for that session. So it's now just to see if anyone behind him can improve. Wilhelm is still out there. He's just a tenth behind, coming into about halfway through the lap, just coming onto the back straight. So we'll just follow him now to see how he gets on in the closing stages of his lap. Takes the inside curb nicely. On the brakes, good amount of curb, runs it out a bit more than Oscar did, perhaps just using more of the track just to carry more speed through the corner as the session ends there. So this is the final chance for the driver still on track. Runs very wide there, Wilhelm. Might have been track limits. He's still pushing though, so we can safely assume that he was still going, but he is not able to improve. So he is currently sitting in second place. So we'll be able to see who else is on the track, who can have a chance of taking him down. The next one to come across the line will be the 88 car of Simon Capelli. See if he can improve. Crosses the line. No, he will stay in 13th place. Next, Gonzalez, the 33 in his BMW M6. He's actually diving into the pits. He's called it a day. He's seen enough. He's happy or unhappy and can't do much about it. Might hear from him. And then that will be the end of this session. The other drivers had invalid laps and were not able to improve. So there you have it. That's qualifying over and done with. That was a good end to the session there. So, while all the drivers fiddle with their setup, just perhaps switch to their more consistent based tyre saving setup from their hot lap mode, we'll just run through the order and see who has placed where. So there are 24 drivers in total. There are 6 GT4s, and that then therefore means 18 GT3s. So, leading the way off the line will be Oscar Sandberg in his Bentley, quickly followed by his teammate Wilhelm Feyrich in again the Bentley GT3. Third place, Grant Willemot in his Aston Martin GT3, then followed by Dominic Olivier, number 9 Lamborghini Huracan GT3. Fifth place, Delaney Patterson, again in a Huracan GT3. Then next up in his McLaren 720S is Daniel Christo, then followed by Chris Corbin, number 8 BMW. In 8th place then is AJ Jones, the 123 Aston Martin V8 Vantage. 9th, Jamal Badou, sharing the line of the grid with Jeremy Gonzalez in 10th place. In 11th, Ryan Quinn, the sole Lexus of the grid. I said last time it is the nicest sounding car on the grid. I still go by that. Then 12th place, Damien Yearwood. The Bentley's putting in a strong performance so far, leading the way, and now in the middle of the pack as well. And Simon Capelli also in his Bentley in 13th place. Then we have Omar Badou in 14th, it is Aston Martin. Then we have Havard Rolfsson, number 18 Aston Martin, followed by in 16th place Charlie Martin in her Bentley Continental GT3. In 17th, Derrick Rudder in his McLaren 720S. The two amateur drivers in the GT3 category together. That will be a tight contest throughout the race. Then in the GT4s now, we've got Kirk Heath leading the way for the GT4s in his BMW M4, and Dami Ayo in his AMG Mercedes. Next up, third place GT4s and 20th overall is Nelson Addison, the 97 BMW M4, the sole amateur GT4 on the grid. Fourth place for the GT4s, Michael Samnesia, the 531 Porsche Cayman. Then 22nd place, fifth place for the GT4s, Kevin Manning in his Aston Martin GT4. 23rd, a latecomer to qualifying, it's Axel Svensson in his Bentley GT3. He will be one to watch through, coming back through the field. He often puts in a good show. And then last, certainly not least, a latecomer, number 24, Porsche Cayman, number 999. The first name of which escapes me. Javan Codrington, I've just been told in my ear. What would we do without our producers, ladies and gentlemen? But there we have it. That is the full grid. Apologise for any names that I missed or butchered, but hopefully we'll improve as the race goes on. So, lovely. So that's the grid. This is, as I said, round 5 of the CSM ACC Championship. We have a minute left before the warm-up lap starts. So, with that in mind, this is where the drivers just start to think about their starting procedure. They know the track, they know the cars. Of course, they're not clairvoyant, they don't know what's going to happen on lap 1. But it's fair to assume anything could happen. You could easily find the tyre wall before you even reach the first corner. It's a very narrow track in some places, Misano. You can perhaps get 3 wide going down the main straight. That's just, again, something else to consider. Is it worth backing out? It's an hour-long race. You don't want to go hell for leather in the first lap or so. So perhaps you just dial it back a bit. Perhaps you slot in behind someone. You just think, okay, let's not go too balls to the wall. Just calm it down and see how we get on. But then there will be some, perhaps those who felt they were a bit misplaced in qualifying. Perhaps they felt they could have done better, and perhaps they got the adrenaline running. And will just go for a cheeky dive bomb down into turn 1, thinking they can win it. We all know you can't win it on turn 1, but tell that to some. So, as the drivers set up on their warm-up lap, good burnout from Oscar there, warming up the rear tyres. This warm-up lap, of course, all about getting heat into those tyres, into the brakes. You don't want any surprises going down into turn 1, going at several, I was about to say several hundred, that would have been incorrect. 120 miles an hour or so, perhaps, going down into turn 1. You don't want to have any surprises of brake fade or brakes not being there at all when you've got 4 cars in front of you. So, as we just have a look now at the helicam for Oscar, it's good just to pick out on a few liveries. I always like to do this through various points through the race. I'm just going to pick on and critique some liveries, because we do allow custom liveries in this championship. You might see a few standout ones. The turn 1 boys often put on a good livery, themed livery together. There's a few differing colours. So you got Oscar's pink Bentley, followed by Wilhelm's blue and red Bentley. Nice one, that one. A bit understated compared to the pink and gold of Oscar. But one I do particularly like, which I think it was Simon Capelli's pink BMW M6 that he had in the previous round. It was just very pink. I can see he's toned it down a bit, and he's decided to go for a nice red and white. Just something a bit less of an eyesore, to be honest. Nothing against pink Bentleys, but a little nicer. Of course, then we've got the baby blue McLaren of Derrick Rudder. I like that colour, it works well on the car. Props to that, although it's not quite McLaren F1 level of garishness. Looking down at the GT4s, there's been quite a bit of effort gone into the GT4 liveries. A couple of good looking cars. Of course, the GT4s are the more standard road well, I say road variants, they're not road variants of the cars, but there's a lot less aero on them compared to the GT3s. They're generally a bit smaller, as I believe that was Michael Samnesia just taking to the grass. Perhaps he's got his tyres too hot, trying to cool them down a bit, or he just ran out of talent in the warm-up lap, did a Valtteri Bottas. We don't want that. And I believe someone has dropped into the pits. That will be Damiao, who will be starting from the pit lane. Perhaps he had trouble getting off the line, or he just didn't quite make the green flag, but that is a shame to see him starting from the pit lane. But as all the drivers line up 2 by 2, coming through the final corner, or just about to, Oscar Sandberg will look to lead them away and hopefully, in his mind, take the lead into turn 1. So as the drivers make their way around, round 5 at Misano, CSM ACC Championship will about to be underway.
Green light, go, go, go.
And that's it, the green light is gone. Down into turn 1 we go. Oliver just poking his nose in. Sorry, Grant Willimot poking his nose in. No real dramas. There's actually drama in the background. What looked like the BMW of, perhaps was that Chris Corbin gone round? Or no, it was Gonzalez, I think, just went round. Another one taken to the grass. I think that was the Lexus of a certain Ryan Quinn, I believe it was the Lexus of. And there's more round as well. Wilhelm Weirich has gone round at turn 3. He has dropped way down. In fact, there's calamities happening all over the grid there, as more cars have gone round, coming onto the back straight. Wilhelm still taking to the grass as he makes his way down the infield straight. In fact, actually, there's a calamitous accident. Bentleys have gone everywhere, into the hairpin. There's about 5 cars involved down the main straight. And it's a calamitous start for a lot of drivers there. A lot has gone wrong, as we can see Charlie Martin's Bentley just recovering from the track. That was a very interesting set of events. That will have to be taken into consideration by the stewards. There were a lot of cars going round. The GT4s seem to get away reasonably unscathed, but there are GT3s littered throughout the track. It'll be interesting to see who has damage, who perhaps comes in at the end of this lap to pit. But that has broken up the field quite a bit. There have been no retirements from the spins, as no one escaped the pit lane, so it's safe to say they've not had any terminal damage. So, as we come across the line, finished lap 1, Oscar Sandberg leads the way, about 2.5 seconds from Dominic Olivier in his Huracan. Then Grant Willimot, 3rd place in his Aston. And these top 3 seem to have got away reasonably unscathed. Chris Corbin has actually made quite a few places in his BMW, managed to make his way up to 4th. Well done him. Damien Yearwood then in his Bentley in 5th place, swiftly followed by Jamal Badou. These guys seem to have had a pretty good start, but this is where things have started to unravel for Wilhelm at this corner here. He's back in 7th place. He'll be quickly looking to get back up to the top. EJ Jones currently sitting at 8th with a slight gap, about a second, back to Havard Rolfsson. This point backwards, 10th back, is Simon Capelli as he just runs wide at the hairpin. It allows the Lexus of Ryan Quinn to make his way through, but this is where the field starts to get a bit more spread out. This is where the incident started to have an effect. So, as I said, Ryan Quinn and Capelli in 10th and 11th. Then Derrick Rudder just behind, who's got Omar Badou for company, both in the McLaren. Just stick with them just to see if he makes the move stick coming into the end of the straight. Just clipping the grass there on the inside. Oh, actually had to back out there. Derrick just cut across the nose. Oh, sorry, that was actually David Christo in there. I got the McLarens wrong there. But jumping back to 15th place, this is the start of the GT4s. 16th place, so I believe Charlie Martin has managed to get back in front of Kirk Heath. Then, second place GT4s currently, got Michael Sumnesia in his Cayman. He's managed to stick relatively out of trouble. Then Axel Svensson, he's would have definitely got caught up in amongst the melee amongst those cars. But he's starting to make his way back through the field. Number 15 GT3. Just behind him, Kevin Manning in his Aston Martin. He has, again, managed to make a couple of places, what with a Damien just having to start from the pit lane. And looks like Jelani Patterson was also one of those GT3 drivers caught up, sitting back down in 21st place. He would not have had a good start. Looks like there's some bad damage on the car as well, as he just picks off Kevin Manning, just looking to get past without any dramas. And then just behind them, Nelson Addison in his BMW M4. As that was a slow car on the left there, the number 15. That is Axel Svensson. I don't know whether he's had a problem or any connectivity issues, but he is going very slowly up into the infield hairpin. It'll be interesting to see what has gone on with him. And then we have in 21st place, Amy Ao. He seems to have got back underway. There's no serious issues at the start of the race when he started in the pit lane. Someone who I feel did have some serious long-lasting damage was Codrington in his Porsche. He's been in the pit lane since the end of lap 1. So as he's just coming back out to rejoin the field, 2 laps down, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. This may just be damage control now, just to see. Just as time goes by, people might start dropping off, they might just start falling behind, and he can perhaps pick them off if anyone has any major incidents. But I'm very interested to actually see how he gets on. So now, just heading on to Grant Willimot in his green Aston. Just follow him for a couple of laps, just see how they settled into the races. The first couple of laps have gone by. Things have gone wrong for a few of our drivers. There's no denying that. Things have gone a bit wrong. There have been a couple of accidents, but this is where you just start to settle down, get your head back in the game, figure out if there was any damage, although I believe the tops, if you discount Wilhelm via it in his Bentley, the top 6 managed to get away very relatively unscathed from all that melee drama. But he's got a bit of breathing space, Grant. He's just hoping, just see if Chris Corbin, he may start to catch him. That's what he's just trying to assess, to see if what his pace is like. Is Chris going to start catching him? Can he start catching Oscar? This is what they'll be trying to work out at this point in time. So there's a big gap from Wilhelm down to Damien, the 4th and 5th place. So whether there was some more drama that we didn't quite pick up on, or this is just the natural pace of the day making itself known. But an interesting battle, just making itself known. Damien Yearwood, AJ Jones, Harvard Rolofsson, 5th through 7th. We've even got Jamal Perdue getting on the action in the background there. Just staking a claim for 5th place. Interesting to see how it unfolds. Whether any of the drivers are going to think, oh, maybe I'm slightly quicker and just try a lunge into one of the corners. Whether they'll just rather sensibly sit pretty, wait for things to unfold, just maybe perhaps force the other driver into a mistake, don't do anything drastic, and just settle in, as we actually see Damien Yearwood running very wide there onto the gravel. That does allow AJ Jones and Rolofsson to get past. Jamal will be sniffing blood, he'll be hoping to get in on that as well, he wants to get past. See Ryan Quinn also not far behind in his Lexus, but Damien will have some dirt on his tyres. As you can see, manages to keep it on at the heavy braking zone, so he's not had too much of a detrimental effect there. That's good to see. So we now go back further through the field, just to the number 97 car I'm going to jump to. of Addison, the BMW M4. On the track map, we just managed to see that just got overtaken by Manning. So this will be an interesting response, I'm sure, from Addison to see whether he thinks he just perhaps was a mistake because they let him past, or whether it was just on pace alone. But Manning just getting a slightly better exit there on Addison, just pulling away from him slightly down the main straight. Coming down to the heavy braking zone. Interesting to see the different lines the cars take, and all the drivers take as well. Misano is a track, while thin, it does offer up various different lines. You can take varying amount of curves through the corners and get the same similar sort of exit speed. So the BMW as well does prefer a slightly straighter entry, where the Aston is a bit nicer with trail braking. You can just sort of get a bit more rotation on the car at high speed compared to the BMW, which prefers a bit lower speed. Good on the brakes as well. You can see him closing up there on the Aston in front. Up quite a bit there. Just perhaps a bit lazier on the power, perhaps just a bit gutless. Maybe that's where the BMW M4 will have its strength, on the brakes going into the corners, and the Aston will just start to pull away. In fact, yeah, that seems to be the order of the day there, as we just watch them go down the infield straight. The Aston, Kevin Manning, running very wide, just exploring track limits, seeing what he can get away with. Might have just lifted down the straight as well to avoid a track limits warning. While we leave Addison, we're going to jump slightly further up the field to the GT4 fight in the number 531 car. Seems to be he is coming up to lap the Porsche Codrington. Interested to judge Codrington's pace. As a lapped car, he will of course have to respect the blue flags, let him through if he gets much Michael gets much closer in the Porsche. But if he has the pace, he doesn't need to yield. So why would you yield if you're faster or the same pace? You're just hindering yourself and potentially the car behind. Now heading back up to the top of the grid, the Bentley of Oscar Sandberg making his way round, coming up to the final corner. So he's just starting to come up on a few back markers now. Be interesting to see just how the traffic affects them. First of all, have to dispatch the number 15 of Axel Svensson, a fellow GT3 car. But then he's got the 5 GT4s ahead of him as well. So Axel, very respectfully, moving out the way there. That's well done from Axel. Allowing Oscar through with no real problems. So again, now coming up on the 97 of Addison in his BMW M4. And the GT4s don't have to yield to the GT3s, while of course the blue flags are there to be respected. They're there to let you know. There's no point just making a drastic choice to just, like that in a sense, that works. Just absolutely contradicted what I was going to say there. The number 15, the number 165 Manley. You can obviously just bail out of the way. You can compromise your own line to allow the other driver through. What was credited in the driver's briefing, what was you were advised to do, was just back out the throttle a little bit earlier, perhaps just brake that half a fraction earlier, just to make life easier for the overtaking car. Keep on your line, don't do anything silly, don't move over, don't start defending against the GT3s or a fellow GT4. Just make your intentions known, make it obvious, make it simple for them. Now, again, coming up to just lap for the first time of Kevin Manning is the second place car of Grant Willimot in his Aston. Now, at some point, both Grant and Wilhelm have overtaken Chris Corbin. Chris Corbin has slipped down to 4th place. Grant managing to get past the back marker with no real issue as he comes up then to dispatch Addison. Chris Corbin now just shortly behind. Coming up, no dramas, overtaking the number 15 of Axel Svensson, who is doing a good job of just making sure he doesn't compromise the races of the leaders this early on. So while everyone settles down, we'll just talk through a couple of points about the race. Just a couple of things you might be wondering at home. So, as I said, it's an hour-long race. Now, there is one mandatory pit stop to take place in a 20-minute pit window. So, pit will open. It's about 20 minutes through when there's 40 minutes left of the race, and it will close when there's 20 minutes left of the race. So, beforehand, the drivers would have been, of course, planning their strategy, what their optimal strategy would have been. Of course, some, in theory, would be looking to pit exactly the halfway mark. You get the best of both tyres. Of course, it's a mandatory tyre change, but you don't have to refuel. Also, majority of the drivers would have taken the full tank of fuel to get to the end of the race, but some would have chanced it to think, well, if I just take less fuel and then fill up halfway through, it might be quicker for them. But the fuel stop is not mandatory. So, as I said, half an hour mark will probably be what they're aiming for, but as the race has unfolded, the earlier damage for some of the drivers might just make them think, if I come into the pit slightly earlier, get that repaired, you then have a better run later through the race, and just perhaps preserve some of those tyres a bit more. Of course, with those in any battles, you might be thinking about the undercut, you might be thinking about the overcut. Is it worth pitting that little bit earlier, getting some fresher rubber, putting a couple of good laps, perhaps overtaking them when your rival is in the pit stop, or the overcut? Perhaps you're feeling, no, these tyres, they're pretty good, they're not bad. Whereas your rivals around you, perhaps just falling off the pace slightly, you still got the pace, so you stay out a bit longer, make use of those tyres, perhaps you're in a good spot, and then staying out a bit longer, getting the fresher rubber later on, which means come the end of the race, you should have better tyres to make any last-ditch moves at the last turn of the last lap, sending it from 100 yards back, something like that. That's the sort of mindset the drivers will be in. So as we tick our way on, we are just under 44 minutes left of the race, so just over a quarter of the way through. Settled down. There's a bit of bunching happening in the grid just as we go across the start-finish line. The number 97 of Addison just is about to be hounded by some overtaking cars. The lapping GT3s are coming through, so he will be seeing the blue flags. As he does, he moves out the way for the pack coming through, which was I believe, so you just see him run wide. The three cars, we have the Lexus of Ryan Quinn in the middle of that, Havard Rollefson just in front, and then Jamal Badou just behind him. So those three managing to dispatch BMW rather quickly. Again, we can see Axel Svensson making his way through, just trying to do some damage limitation from his lack of qualifying. So as he runs quite wide there, perhaps the lack of practice just starting to show. He overshot the corner quite drastically there. Perhaps he's still trying to nailed down his braking points. Not too many dramas there. But he'll be looking to try and get in the rhythm and in the zone as much as possible, and just as quickly as possible as well. Of course, it's not good going into a race without qualifying, but of course, life permitting, some do get in the way. We're all responsible of that. As we can see behind the number 19s, Addison also getting overtaken by the number 99 McLaren. As again, also the Aston Martin of, I believe, it is the Aston Martin of Omar Badou. It is in fact his Aston Martin. just makes his way through turn 2. Kevin Manning also trying to get in on the action. Perhaps he thinks he can overtake him, but you're not quite a GT3. Let's just look further back. That looks like the Bentley of Damien Yearwood coming through as well. So GT4's just starting to have a bit of a break from the GT3s now. Once Damien comes past, they'll have a bit of a respite and pay less attention to their mirrors and more attention to going forward. As Damien always ran a little bit wide, I think he was caught a little bit out by what Svensson was trying to do. Svensson, whether he was letting him past or just ran a bit wide, was difficult to tell. So the field has broken up reasonably nicely now. The battles have started to form. So drivers just got into their rhythm. No real obvious contenders of who's going to make a late lunge. But as we jump to Grant Willamot and Vyrick, they are the closest pair on track right now, full position. Second and third. Vyrick, of course, but might be slightly seething after his start, in which he did get turned around. So he'll be wanting to get past Grant as quickly as possible and get after his teammate. Sandberg is post haste. It's just heavy on the brakes there. Perhaps a smidge later than he should have been. As our pit window has just come open, so you might just start to see some drivers dive into the pit, but we'll stay with Grant and Wilhelm for now. So the Bentley will have the tow going up the straight. Perhaps they'll be thinking about a move going into the end of the straight, if they do now. But no, he decides to stay behind. Perhaps he's lining up a move going into the end of the home straight into turn 1. That would be my best bet. Then what do I know? I'm just commentating, I'm not the one racing. So coming around the final turn, the gap staying pretty much the same since halfway through the lap. It's the Aston Martin just running a little bit wide. His Bentley's just going to poke his nose round the outside. He's got a bit of a better run on the exit, but Willamot does defend. Just forces the Bentley to poke his nose round the outside, but thinks better of it. And perhaps he'll try and get him on the exit of turn 2, coming around turn 3. The Bentley's slithering slightly, coming around there. But Willamot manages to hold him off without too many dramas. So Vyrick, you can tell, is pushing. The body language of that Bentley is on the edge of grip. Every time he's coming in on the brakes, it's just perhaps overshooting slightly, just squirreling on them. Then coming out of the corners, it's just very twitchy as well. So it could be car setup related. I dare say that's just Vyrick pushing his absolute hardest, using all of the track to his advantage, all the way up to the curb. Grant just being a bit more conservative in his Aston Martin. As you can tell, Vyrick is really trying to push the exit hard in on the brakes, making the corner as long as possible, so then you get the cutback on the power really early, get in the tow, so he can give himself a shot coming down to the end of the straight. Let's see if he gives a go this time round, which he doesn't again. He decides to just tuck in behind. Heavy on the brakes again. The Bentley does close up quite a lot on the brakes. That is where I'm sure he's trying to think, where can I line up a move? A heavy braking zone is looking like the best bet. Every single time he's closing up on the brakes, just losing out slightly on the exit, just ever so slightly. We come through again. So as we just went past, saw Simon Capelli in the pit. I believe he is the first of our runners to pit during the pit window, for those that didn't have damage. So it'll be interesting to see where he comes out and as to how long a pit stop is going to take. That'll give us a better idea if the race goes through as to what to watch out for. So Grant and Vyrick and Wilhelm Vyrick perhaps they're just happy to take these places as they are. Perhaps Vyrick is just thinking there's no point trying to put a move in if you're the same pace. Perhaps you could work together, try and catch Oscar. He's currently 10 seconds out in front of Grant Willamot. But if Vyrick can just hound him into a mistake, like Grant just running wide, in fact he's just managed to No, he hasn't just not quite pulled alongside, but he's right under the rear wing of that Aston Martin, pulled alongside. He's going to have the inside line going into the end of the straight. There's a slight bit of contact, pushes him out wide. Grant just had to back out of it slightly. Weyrich taking no prisoners. He wanted to get that move done any way possible. He would say thank you very much, and he's on his way. Be interesting to see if he can start to pull away now, or whether Grant in his Aston Martin can keep up with him, whether they are equal for pace, or he was in fact holding up Weyrich. In fact, as Simon Capelli reaches the end of the pit lane, I can see. So pit stop takes just about a lap and a half going round, by my reckoning, as they make their way through turn 2. Simon Capelli came out just 2 corners ahead. So, interestingly, Simon Capelli actually got a stop-go penalty of 30 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. That is not what you want. So, he is going to have to stop again and serve that penalty within 3 laps, and it's a disastrous thing to happen for Simon. He pitted early, perhaps wanted to get out of some traffic, thought he was doing the right thing, but that is surely going to aggravate him. Easy mistake to make. Perhaps you're a bit late on the brakes, just come in a bit hot, or if you pull away a bit briskly, just trying to make up that time. So now just jumping to Jamal Badou and Ryan Quinn. 6th and 7th place. The Aston Martin and Jamal just trying to see what they can do to put off Ryan in his Lexus. So, gap has been steadily coming down between Jamal and Ryan. See Ryan just running a little bit wide there. Jamal obviously make use of that going up the straight. Try and judge the speed difference, where the cars are stronger, where the cars are weaker. The Lexus, famously good coming out of the corners, able to put down a lot of traction. The Aston, good all-rounder, good everywhere it seems. Doesn't excel in many places, but just a very good car to drive. And Ryan just managing to gap Jamal a little bit, coming on to the last of the lap. Both using all of the track to their availability. As we went past, I think that was Derrick Rudder in the pits in his McLaren, number 84. He is still in the pits. So he was the second of the drivers to pit. He just moves on his way. There is also the battle behind forming of Rolfsson and Christo. They are next to each other on track. Similar sort of situation to Ryan and Jamal, in that slightly different cars perform better in certain areas. The mid-engine McLaren going to be slightly better on the brakes and through the corners, but the Aston was a bit better putting down the power and a higher top speed. Because when the McLaren was designed, it was designed as a handling car, very slippery through the corners, but has a massive fat wing on the back, pushing it into the ground. Performed better in race conditions compared to qualifying. The car all about consistency, just getting into the groove of things. So, and there's also Derrick Rudder, who has picked up a drive-through penalty. Not totally sure as to why, but we know Derrick Rudder was also in the pits, so maybe it was related to an infringement there. And Simon Capelli also serves his stop-go penalty of 30 seconds. That is a lengthy wait. When you're sat still for 30 seconds in a pit lane, it feels like about 30 years. It just goes on forever. And if you've ever experienced that, you know the pain that Simon is enduring right now. I'll tell you what, I do miss his pink car. I called him Salmon Capelli last time because it was like a good salmon pink. Yeah, we'll have to just have to gloss over that this time. I'll hold a memoriam for him. So now back with Rolfsson and Christo. Christo has closed the gap slightly over the last lap. He's now easily within the tow of Rolfsson. Just making minute gains where he can. Heavy on the brakes, the McLaren just a little bit deeper than the Aston Martin. Just slightly different lines. The cars do prefer different lines through the corners depending on their weight distribution and how much aero they're running. Setup differences employed in that difference as well. The McLaren again just seem to be gaining quite a bit on entry. But then in the straight, it doesn't seem to be making many gains on the Astons. The Aston has a higher top speed, perhaps running a bit less downforce, making it slipperier through the air, allowing a much higher top speed. Then you'll watch it, McLaren dives up, it's very close behind. And then again just starts to lose out a little bit on the exit as the Aston. Rolfson just runs a little bit wide. That's trying to just carry a bit too much speed through the corner. As Christo thinks, perhaps he can pounce into turn 1, line it up maybe for turn 3 or 4. If he can just put Rolfson off slightly, might do quite well. So we've had a number of pits. Ryan Quinn come into the pits, Jamal Padu also in the pits, as well as AJ Jones and Charlie Martin. We've also got a couple of the GT4s as well in Addison and Manning, and on track battle there. So it'll be interesting to see. The pit stops should come out in roughly the order they're in, as we can see Addison just starting to leave in his BMW, and then Manning not far behind also getting underway. So they would not have traded places in the pits.
Through, not over yet.
But it'll be interesting to see who comes out first, Ryan Quinn or Jamal Padu. The on-track battle we're watching as Jamal just starts to set off from the pits, as done Ryan Quinn. So no places traded in the pit lane. Just in front, AJ Jones. So that has brought Ryan and AJ a lot closer together. That is very interesting. AJ was several places ahead of Ryan going into the pits. Has managed to close up the gap quite a bit. So maybe whether AJ had some damage to repair, perhaps he just wanted to take a little bit longer and added some fuel in. As a track limits penalty has just come up for Codrington. That will result in a drive-through for the GT4 Porsche Cayman. So the way track limits works in ACC and in real life as well, basically 4 strikes is a penalty. So you get 3 warnings, the 4th one is a penalty, in this case deemed to be a drive-through penalty. So that's a bit unfortunate there for Codrington. But now just jumping back to Ryan Quinn, just trying to sieve through some traffic of the GT4s ahead. AJ would be quite thankful, perhaps he missed them in the pits or was able to get past them rather quickly. But I could see Ryan actually struggling to get past there. He's been held up by the GT4s. He decided to go the long way round, but actually proved very costly as the Porsche nearly goes into the back of the Aston Martin. Actually then lets through Ryan Quinn, and the added downforce making it a lot easier to take the Aston Martin through the corner there. Ryan will not be happy after that. I'm sure he would have felt that those GT4s held him up slightly, but when they're racing for position, you've got to expect them just at the back. Who's that coming into the pits? That is Michael Somnesia coming into the pits. That was one of the battling GT4s. Has come into the pits, as there are also a few more of the drivers in. One of those drivers, Grant Willamot, the 3rd place. He is in the pits, so Vierick has stayed out, decided to go a little bit longer, but Grant has come in to serve his pit stop. This is where everything all starts to get very interesting. Who else do we have in here? Omar Badu just coming to the end of the pit lane. He has served his stop. Delaney Patterson also in the pits, sitting pretty in 11th. And then the 2 leaders of the GT4. So Kirk Heath was in the pits already before Somnesia joined him. And then we also have Codrington, I believe, serving his drive-through penalty. Indeed he is. So he's also coming out. So the majority of the pit stops have taken place. So the ones yet to pit, I believe, are Oscar Sandberg and Vierick out in front. In fact, I'm not sure whether Chris Corbin has also pitted. Judging by the gap, I would say he has. So those top 2, be interested to see where they filter out after they have pitted. the gap between Weyrich and Willemot will be the one to watch. In fact, I would say Chris Corbin hasn't pitted, because unless something went drastically wrong for Brian Willemot, I dare say he'd have kept third place had Corbin pitted. So Corbin also yet to pit. The top three, I believe, are yet to pit. So the GT4 of Addison is around just at the last stage of the lap. He is stuck in the gravel. Yellow flags waved. There are no other signs of damage or other cars involved, but it's very difficult to tell at this stage as he trundles his way through. It looks to be relatively okay, that BMW. It'll be interesting to know how he managed to get round. He's not gone into the pits, so no obvious signs of damage. Perhaps he didn't have any contact, but that would have certainly hurt his momentum in this race. I probably just got on the gas a little late, or a little early, sorry, coming out of... oh, he's gone round again. In fact, he's gone round again. That is not good. He has still got some very dirty tyres, perhaps even a puncture on the car. If it's caused him to go around that early, he's going to try and swing it around, perhaps. Just reverse it out. That is not gone well for Addison there. He's just going to stick off the racing line, make sure he doesn't bring any dirt onto it. He's got the Bentley coming up behind him of Charlie Martin. She makes her way through, currently sitting in 12th place. In fact, Addison has gone round again. He's just managed to hold it this time. He is really struggling with that car. Whether maybe he did perhaps pick up some damage, and that has maybe left his rears a bit skew-if. Can't put down the power without it just spinning out. But that is some very mysterious circumstances surrounding that. I hope there's no serious damage on the car. And if there is any, it can be quickly fixed. A calamitous lap there for Addison. I hope he manages to bring it back towards the end of the race. So, an interesting on-track battle currently happening is Rollison and Jamal Badou. They are right next to each other on track. And they are also contending, I believe that is the BMW of Chris Corbin ahead. So those three, while on track together, aren't all for position. The ones you want to watch for are Rollison and Badou. Two the white Aston Martins, separated by 5/10. Corbin just started to pull away. So most likely just came out behind him after their pit stops. Perhaps try and use the pace of the third place driver just to see where they're going wrong. Perhaps they can eke out a couple of tenths. Of course, Chris will just be wary of the fact that they are fighting for position. If Rollison is looking in his mirrors, he might not notice the fact that Chris is in his way. Go out the back of him, we wouldn't want that. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. We'll say that. Although that does make for more drama. So, you know. Now, we'll leave it at that. I don't want to incite drama. There's Jamal getting very close to him on the brakes. It's interesting the toing and throwing that the cars go under their loads. It can make it seem a lot closer than they actually are. As you're late on the brakes, you find yourself peering in through the window of the guy next to you, when in actual fact you're going to go sailing on past him. But this is actually managed to line up a move perhaps into turn one, getting right under the rear wing. Just bailing out slightly. But a very good exit there, Jamal Badou. That's a little better than he was expecting. I am surprised he did not go for the move. Wide going onto the marbles of the exit for turn 3. Turn 4. I believe he's also, perhaps Chris Corbin is just on his tyres starting to hold up Rollison. It felt like Rollison got very close to Chris Corbin in his BMW, but then just backed out slightly and caused a chain effect. Jamal had to let off as well. Chris Corbin is not pulling away from these drivers, so I'm starting to think that Chris's tyres are suffering as Jamal gets a little bit sideways coming out the exit there. Just also taking all of the curb on the entry, trying to use all of the track, get as much speed as possible, running a bit wider than Rollison. Just starting to fall back a car length or two now. He needs to tidy it up a little bit. He's not going to want to do that for the remainder of the laps. He'll find himself just starting to make more drastic mistakes. So, yeah, Olofsson just looks a little bit more composed than Chris Corbin. Corbin currently sitting in second place, so Vierick did in fact pit amongst all that. The number 222 car. So as we can have a look now at Wilhelm Vierick. He just comes out of the infield straight, currently sitting in 4th place behind Grant Willemot. We know Grant has pitted, so Vierick has managed to actually drop 5 seconds on Grant there, perhaps. So also in the pits now, Sandberg and Corbin in the pits. Sandberg in fact just leaving the pits, so a good pit stop for him. He's managed to hold on to 1st place. The 222 of Willemot is just probably come onto the back straight, onto the home straight, just as Sandberg leaves the pits. The number 222 coming round the last corner now, managing the main straight. And Sandberg leaves the pits and manages to rejoin in front of Derrick Rudder in his McLaren. So currently, Chris Corbin also still in the pits. He's just dropped the car. He's now leaving. So Grant has managed to jump Chris Corbin as well, as has Wilhelm Vierick. So that is, I believe, the majority of the pit stops have taken place. So this running order is the best we're going to have, unless there's any dramatic events to come into the final stages of this race, as the pit window is about to close the last 5 seconds. So that will be the final pit stops. But Chris Corbin has picked up a 30-second stop-and-go penalty for, I assume, speeding in the pit lane. That is dramatic. That is going to seriously anger him in that car. That is not what you want. A strong 4th place, 20 seconds behind 3rd. If Willemot and Vierick were to start fighting, you would hope Chris Corbin would catch to the back of them, but he's going to be seething, so that is going to drop him quite a few places down the order. Perhaps we're looking at him coming out in 9th or 10th position once he has served that penalty. He has 3 laps to do so, so he may not serve it right away, but he is not going to be happy in that car, I can tell you that. And last, when you're in a position to earn some good points in the championship, perhaps, and made up a good couple of places from where he qualified, that is going to seriously anger him. I hope it manages to affect him too much, manages to keep it together, and puts in a good couple of laps. It will all still be to play for once he serves that, but that'll be interesting to see where he comes out. In fact, he is just taking it now, so he has decided to come straight in. It's a stop go of 30 seconds, so he'll pull into his pit box, stay stationary. Of course, the tyres will cool. Lose temperature in the brakes as well, so a big disadvantage when he comes out on track. So as we say, AJ Jones go past. So that will be 1 position loss, 2 position loss. Ryan Quinn coming through as well in his Lexus, then followed by Christo Rolofsson and Jamal Badu, who are still together on track, still haven't traded places, so it's good to see we've not missed any action there. And then the number 15 of Axel Svensson coming through as well, just making up a lap for Chris Corbin, of course. Svensson suffering some incidents at the start of the race. As we also see the 762 Omar Badu coming through, as well as the 88 of Simon Capelli, who is again unlapping himself. So Chris Corbin is going to slip back into 10th place, I believe. We'll have Damien Yearwood for company when he rejoins the track. See how quickly Damien manages to get through the first 2 corners. In fact, they're going to come out on track pretty close to each other. Chris Corbin just managing to stay ahead and see Damien comes into shot. But Damien will have the warm rubber. He's going to have been on those tyres for a good number of laps. He's already got the heat in. He's got his rhythm down. So Damien might just think he can pound Chris here, just get on the back of him, perhaps force him into a mistake. So very entertaining there on Chris Corbin. It's a shame it had to pan out that way. I wish him all the best in managing to get further back up the field. He has a slight gap of about 17 seconds to Omar Badou. So quite a big gap to make up. He might be hoping for a mistake. We'll just put in some good laps and see how he gets on. So I'm going to flip back to the battle between Rolfson and Jamal Badou, because this has been going on for a good number of laps. As you see, the Aston Martin, there's Kevin Manning running a bit wide, managing to stay out of the way. 3 Aston Martins together on track. But these two drivers, Rolfson and Jamal Badou, have been very close to each other the entire race. Even through the pit stops, they have been no more than a couple of seconds apart from each other. They haven't managed to trade places yet. Luckily, there's been no contact and any attempted moves. There's been no real dramas between the pair. It's all been clean, fair racing. Jamal Badou just trying to make himself as big as possible in the mirrors of Rolfson. As the race goes on, we are about to enter the last 15 minutes. Jamal will just be thinking, I've got to make a move soon or it's not going to happen at all. They do seem evenly paced. All this time, he'd have been gathering information, seeing where he's better, where he's slower, just picking his way bit by bit, gathering information. So some drivers do prefer being the car ahead, leading the fight, whereas you'll get some drivers prefer to be second place car in a battle such as this, because it's much easier to gauge where you're losing and where you're gaining when you're the car behind. You can see it in front of you. Then there are those who don't like the distraction of having a car in front. As Jamal getting a bit much on the power there. He nearly was pointing towards the wall there. That would not have been a good way to end his race if he'd have met that. You can tell he's pushing in that Aston Martin. He is giving it all he's got. This is what we like to see, though. Drivers giving it their absolute best, not relenting in any way, shape or form. As we just come up to the back of the Porsche Cayman, the 999 Codrington. We'll just pull over slightly, let the Aston Martins through. No real dramas. And just as we look ahead of Rolfson to David Christo, he is not that far ahead in his McLaren, about 3 seconds ahead of the fight between Rolfson and Badou. So Rolfson has in fact managed to gap Badou by about half a second, thanks to that back marker, I believe. So now Havard Rolfson will be looking to just set his sights on David Christo, taking out a tenth of him in that last sector. Just trying to reel him in as much as possible. Again, pulling. Rolfson managed to pull another half a second on Badou. Badou perhaps just struggling a bit. Perhaps he's lost his rhythm slightly, just nearly finding he's losing control of the car a lap ago. Needs to keep it together. So, some of you may have noticed, we are a driver light at the minute. We unfortunately did lose Dominic Olivier to a power outage, which is unfortunate. But these are the ways of sim racing, much equivalent to a mechanical fault. We have electrical faults of a different nature, so it's a shame for him. Which is, hopefully we'll see him back in the next round of the Carib Sim Motorsport ACC Championship. Focusing back now, the fight between Willemot and Weirich is about to heat up. 6 tenths between them as they come over the back marker of, I believe that is the Bentley of Simon Capelli. They make their way past, as well as the GT4 of Kirk Heath. So this is going to be a very tight battle for second place. Grant Willemot has had the edge for the majority of the race. He decided to pit earlier than Weirich. So that means Wilhelm Weirich will have the fresher rubber coming towards the end of this race, with just some slightly better tyres. Just perhaps you're hoping to use that to his advantage. Now, Wilhelm was caught up in a few incidents at the beginning of the race, so he did start in second place, but then dropped back down the order, so I believe 8th place was his lowest on the first lap. So he's done well to come back to this far, but this is going to be his biggest battle and struggle so far, trying to overturn Grant Willemot once again. Oscar Sandberg currently leads the race. He is about 15 seconds out in front of the battle we are watching. Just steadying itself about 7/10, 6/10 apart, about that region. It's two different cars. They are going to to and fro throughout the lap. As we have seen previously in this race, Wilhelm does like to just go a bit later on the brakes, try and round off the corner a bit more than other drivers. They're all about exit speed. This is where Grant can start to feel the pressure. When you see a big Bentley charging towards you in your mirrors, it might just put you off a little bit. I mean, it put me off. That car is huge. It's a big car. If you see that in your mirrors, you know it's there. It's taking up everything and more. Yeah, it's the dainty little Aston. The Aston's not exactly small. Jesus. As we can see, that is the number 15 Bentley of Axel Svensson, just keeping out the way again. Axel Svensson, incidentally, has done quite well to make his way up through the field. He's currently sitting pretty in 14th place. He's managed to overtake a couple of the GT3 runners, of course, as well as the GT Sports. Actually, this is a huge turn of events. Drive-through for Vajric in his Bentley. I believe that was for track limits. That is calamitous for him. He has been pushing that hard, just hardened perhaps one or two too many times. He is going to be rather frustrated in that car. So, drive-through penalty for him. That is going to be a big sigh of release for Grant Willemot. All he has to do is just sort of see it through now. He's got, just as we come over to 10 minutes left of the race, behind Vajric is AJ Jones, who is several seconds behind. As we wait for the timing screen to update, I'll be able to tell you exactly how much, but once Vajric serves this drive-through, as he does now, he comes into the pits, get it over and done with, so Grant can scamper away. It'll be interesting to see where AJ Jones is amongst all this, the number 1, 2, 3 car. In fact, he is just come onto the back straight, so Vajric will not lose the position to AJ Jones, but he will lose a whole heap of time to Grant. That, in fact, might be done and dusted for the top 3 fight, bar any unfortunate incidents. That's a shame that battle had to end that way. I was rather looking forward to seeing how that would pan out. Such a shame for Vajric. He's not had the best of races, rather calamitous as they go, being turned round once in the first lap and then running extremely wide on the subsequent corner, and then having to serve this drive-through. He is not going to be happy. He won the previous 2 rounds of this championship, at Bathurst and at Paul Ricard. Third place is by no means awful, but he is a winner. He was the man that you always want to beat. He's going to be disappointed with himself. I can tell you that. So, just behind him, as we go on board, Jelani Patterson. So, this is a battle for position with Charlie Martin just ahead in the blue Bentley. So, currently fighting for 12th place. Patterson just closing up quite a bit on the brakes there in his Hurricane. Charlie Martin, the AM driver. She has done well to make herself up to 12th place. To just make that car as big as it can be, not look at any place. Just Patterson just having a look, just shoving his nose up the inside. Oh, Charlie getting a bit squirrely. In fact, just lost the place. That was a good move from Patterson. Just perhaps put her off slightly, just made her think about where to put the car, look in your mirrors, and all of a sudden you're just offline slightly. That was well done from Patterson. Charlie, I'm sure, will be slightly annoyed. She lost a place there. Once we had that, Jamal Badou's earned himself a drive-through penalty. Oh no! Jamal! Where'd it all go wrong? He's still 1.1 seconds behind Rolofsson. So this battle again will be influenced by a decision from the stewards. So he bails into the pit lane to serve that drive-through penalty again for track limits. So he will now reset that. So once you serve your drive-through for track limits, it resets. So you then get another set of 4 strikes to earn yourself a bit of extra time. So it's all with these track limits warnings. It's about using them favourably. In fact, he stopped. Is he having an extra? Is he pitted for tyres, or did he think it was a stop-go? I think he thought it was a stop-go, not a drive-through. That is unfortunate. As he gets back underway, a bit of confusion there for Jamal. But let's see if he's lost any places. I believe he's lost one to Omar Badu, as we can see there. Also, the 8 of Chris Corbin going through, so he's lost 2 places due to that drive-through penalty. I don't think him stopping would have managed to pull that back. So, while... And also speeding in the pits, Jamal! What happened? Oh, he's sped at the pit lane. He's got himself a stop-go penalty. He's going to have to stop next time. I shouldn't laugh, but that is incredibly unfortunate for Jamal Badu. What an awful set of circumstances he's found himself in. Jamal, I feel bad for you. That is not deserved at all. You've had a great race so far. Having a good battle with Rolfson, that's not how it should have ended. So that, in fact, will then drop him even further down the order. So Jamal's, the closest competitor to Jamal, will be Damien Yearwood behind him at 12 seconds. He will lose that place as well as the one to Chalani Patterson. He's currently sitting in 12th place. Then perhaps Charlie Martin as well. Yeah, he's going to fall quite far down the order. That is so unfortunate as we just enter the last 5 minutes of this race. Oh, my heart aches for you, Jamal. It really does. It really does. So, the man out in front, Oscar, I haven't really seen too much of him. He's been just quietly getting on with his day, really. Out in front by 15 seconds currently, just perhaps closer to 16. Just quietly going about things. He's led, of course, he qualified in first place, and he's led the whole way through the race. In his pit stop with about 25 minutes left of the race. Had no real dramas. He seemed just to have dispatched the back markers with relative ease. He's got plenty of space around him. There's no one behind him. As the next car up the road is the number 18 of Rolfson, who will be coming to lap in. He might not lap him by the end of the race. So, bar anything going hideously wrong, I think it's fair to say he's feeling quite confident in that car. There should be no obvious reasons for him to not win this race. 34 laps. So, a commanding lead then for Sandberg. Just pulls out a little bit more time with the Wilmot as well, just for good measure, as we come round the final corner to start lap number 35. It's been a thrilling race so far. There have been a lot of battles to look up and down the field. I have enjoyed it immensely. As Jamal Badu clears his stop-go penalty, he has come out in 13th place, I believe. So falling in behind Charlie Martin and Chalani Patterson. So, as we jump down to the GT4s, currently winning the GT4 category is Kirk Heath, the number 38 BMW M4. Kirk has been leading for the majority of the time in the pit stops. There was a bit of overlapping. Kirk, of course, qualified first amongst the GT4s. And has stayed there, much like Oscar has in the GT3s. No incidents becoming of him, as we look slightly further back to Michael Somnesia. A bit more of an interesting tale for Michael. He did get caught up in a few incidents at the start of the race. And then also did find the grass at one point, rather interestingly, on his warm-up lap, which I'll hopefully be able to talk to him about that after, see whether he just had to sneeze or something, we don't know. The most interesting thing, Dami Ao, who started from the pit lane, has managed to call his way into the podium positions of the GT4s in his Mercedes AMG. That is done really well, as we managed to just catch Derrick Rudder venturing back onto the track. But yeah, Dami has done rather well to start from the pit lane, easily about half a lap down by the time he reached the end of the pits. It's quite a long pit lane at Misano. As he lets by number 123, AJ Jones. Yeah, that is done really well for Dammy. Pick up some silverware for that. He'll be very happy. Fourth place, the GT4s currently. Mr. Kevin Manning in his Aston Martin. Quite a few seconds back, 19 seconds back on AO. So this is all just putting the laps in, making sure we make no mistakes. He has Codrington behind in the Porsche, but Codrington is several laps down after he's had a couple of incidents. At the start, he suffered quite some heavy damage, which meant that he was 3 laps down come the 4th lap. So that went well for him. But yeah, he is going to be unhappy in that car. But that's all seat time at the end of the day. Come the next round, he will have had a lot more time to get used to the car. And with any luck, we'll put in a better performance the next round. So, with 40 seconds left of the race, Oscar Sandberg is just coming around the penultimate corner. There is going to be another lap for him. So as he now rounds the final corner, coming onto the home straight, 30 seconds left, we'll have one more lap. So currently sitting, we have Sandberg, Willimot, Vyrick, AJ Jones and Ryan Quinn as your top 5. Willimot a good 15 to 20 seconds behind, and Vyrick a further, well, if the timing screens went that far back I would tell you, but they don't, fortunately. So the current on-track battles seem to have subdued, slightly subsided. Some gaps developed across the field. All the battles taking place are not for position as far as I'm aware. So hopefully not too many dramas on this final lap. No punting, no yellow flags going off. Have a nice friendly end to the race. That would be lovely. So we'll stay with Oscar now. And we get to see his last couple of corners. So coming on to the back straight for the final time. I've been told the cameras have gone haywire. So it may not be Oscar. And now we have Oscar back. This is wonderful. And then, so Oscar just coming on to the last part of the lap in the last sector, coming up to the penultimate corner now. It has been a commanding race for Oscar Sandberg. He has not put a foot wrong from the start to finish, even through qualifying. Qualified in first. As he rounds the final corner, coming over to the pit wall, celebrate with his team, Oscar Sandberg wins round 5 of the CSM ACC Championship at Misano. Well done, Oscar Sandberg. That has been a brilliant race for you. As we see Grant Willimot come round the final corner as well, a well-deserved second place for him. He managed to fend off Wilhelm Vyrick for the large majority of the race until Vyrick did pick up that penalty, but a solid second place for Willimot there. As we also see Chris Corbin cross the line, the number 8 BMW, and the 762 of Omar Badou, 8th and 9th place. So the next across the line will be the number 17 of Damien Yearwood in his Bentley, as he rounds the penultimate corner, and he is quickly followed by the number 531 of Michael Somnesia in the GT4. So amongst all that, Kirk Keith also crossed the line to win the GT4 category at round 5 of Misano. You see Damien cross the line. Michael finishing second for the GT4s, 18th overall, as we also see the number 79 of Jermaine Patterson come across, and Wilhelm Vyrick finishing in 3rd place. Pretty disastrous race by his standards, I'm sure. We'll hear from him after the race. This is the number 88 of Simon Capelli also crosses the line. Now coming through a couple of the lap drivers, AJ Jones, 4th place for AJ. That is a very good race for him. He is going to be happy with that, I can tell you that for sure. Ryan Quinn also crossing the line in 5th place. Good race for Ryan. He's had a couple of good battles throughout the race, as well as David Christo and his McLaren. All done well, as we can also see. Rolfson crossing the line, managed to fend off Jamal Badou quite successfully throughout the race after Jamal got those penalties. So there we have it. I'll run through the final finishing order. First place, Oscar Sandberg, followed by Grant Willimot. Vyrick in 3rd, AJ Jones in 4th place, Ryan Quinn and David Christo, Olofsson, Chris Corbin in 8th, Omar Badou in 9th, Damien Yearwood in 10th, Patterson in 11th, then followed by Martin in 12th, Jamal Badou in 13th, Simon Capelli 14th, Axel Svensson in 15th, Derrick Rudder in 16th. Then the first of the GT4s, currently sitting pretty in 17th place, is Kirk Heath, and followed by Somnesia, Io, Anning in 20th place. And if my screen would scroll down, I would tell you that it was then the Porsche, I think, the Porsche of Codrington, and then Addison bringing up the rear of the finishing drivers. So there we have it. We also had Olivier and Gonzalez disconnect from the race, unfortunately. So we also believe Addison disconnected as well to put himself a bit further down, but rejoined to finish the race. That is some good going from him. So there we have it. What a lovely race. We have had some serious incidents at the start which had to be dealt with. I can tell you that cars number 17 and 21 were under investigation throughout the race, and we dealt with afterwards in the stewards' inquiry to happen after the race to sort all that out. But as the drivers come into the pits, they've finished their cool-down laps. We will shortly be jumping over to the debriefing room. We will have a short break of about 20 seconds once they come in, and then we'll host the post-race drivers' interviews, be able to catch up with a couple of the drivers to see how they got on.
That's exactly what happened to me.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I'm sorry for hitting you up the ass.
I think he's long gone.
Yeah, but that was my fault. I hit him at the ass.
And then you took out Jelani too.
Jelani? Who's Jelani? Buru?
Patterson.
I did? I got spun by the third corner.
Yeah, because I saw you come across me and the Lamborghini and completely wiped them out.
Yeah. I think I saw that one.
I was like, Logic, where the fuck are you going? And then Lamborghini was just didn't see you.
But
I'm sorry.
actually,
Yeah, hello everyone.
Hello.
I'm not
Hey,
sure
Chris.
if everyone has joined, but just talk to the top 3 of both the GT3 and GT4s, as well as a few select others. So, let's see, has Oscar joined the room? He has. Oscar, well done. A commanding win for you in the GT3s. How do you think it went?
Well, what should I say? It was a good qualifying. I saw everyone was standing up in front of the pit lane in the GT3 quali. I didn't see the point of that because I knew I had the pace if I just got a free lap. So theoretically, I just joined the mess 2 minutes later. But good qualifying. The race, I got clean of the mess behind me again, and from there on, it was just to take care of the tires, no track warnings, and just try to get the fastest lap. But I don't think I got it. But I'm happy with the win.
Perfect. So when you're in that space, it's you on your own. What are you thinking? Are you thinking, do I just watch out for people in front, or are you watching the times behind, or are you in your own little world?
I think it's very good that you are not in the Discord group, that we are chatting, because we are talking about everything else than actually driving. So no, it's just you come into your own rhythm, and as long as you have a lot of laps and all the stuff, you just drive your own. You had your braking points and things like that, and theoretically it's just to what should I say? Not get a puncture or things like that. So yeah, no, you are just in your own world. You could say a little like in the real car. You just drive around in your own world.
Perfect. Well done, Oscar. Well done on a commanding win there. So we'll jump now to Grant. Grant,
Hello.
second place. Happy? Do you think you could have won?
No, definitely not. It was a little bit too quick for me.
that was about the maximum I could get. Wilhelm behind was probably a little bit. Well, he was definitely quicker too, but he just had a drive through that put him behind me. I think it would have been a close battle between us two at the end, but the drive through sort of ended that.
Yeah, the drive-through did cut your battle short. I must admit, I was quite looking forward to seeing how you would get on. But do you think you could have held him off?
Probably not, but who knows? I'll definitely given it a go. We'd already had a little bit of contact right at the start. I didn't really know what happened. I didn't have any throttle input, and I just car spun in front of me. But I'd have definitely given it a go, but I think it was probably just a little bit too fast.
So, on that subject, Wilhelm, a bit of contact at the start for you. What exactly happened?
Yeah, I think everyone knows that when Oscar and me are driving together, then the first one who is like out of the mess, he will just stay in front for the rest of the race because therefore we are too close on the pace. Yeah, it was definitely my race to forget ever in my life. Never did that many mistakes in a race at the same time. But yeah, it just happens. Saved place 3 in the very end. I don't know if you saw it at the live stream. I had the fuel miscalculation. I had to save fuel. Everything went wrong in this race. But that's racing. I'm very happy for my teammates. Congratulations, Oscar, to the win. Congratulations, Grant, for a very good race. Good pace. We drove yesterday the 8 hours together. So this is absolutely the way we want to go for the future. Looking forward for the next race, Barcelona, and hopefully a bit further in the front the next time.
Yeah.
Oh, Wilhelm, thank you very much. And we'll also just quickly speak to the GT4s as well. Of course, this was the first multi-class event here at the CSM ACC Championship. So, Kirk, first winner of the GT4s. You must be happy.
Yeah, that was pretty much a clean sheet, to be honest. Like, I just turned up, just got some laps in practice, did my quali, set good pace, and the race was just the same, really. I was quite surprised, and I spent more times trying to dodge the GT3 cars than I actually had GT4, so that was quite a new, interesting one. The mix of pace is definitely a challenge sometimes, so you definitely need good cooperation with the GT3 drivers, or else you're going to find yourself off track and with damage. And I actually had an incident to that. One of the drivers, I think he just braked a bit too late, one of the hairpins, and spun me out, but luckily I'd actually had a sufficient lead, so I didn't lose too much time. Got my head back on, cracked on with it, and then just brought it home.
Lovely. So, I mean, for our viewers, obviously this is, as I said, the first GT4 race. Can you sort of describe what you're trying to do in the GT4 to avoid the GT3s as they come barreling through with no regard for anyone's safety?
Yeah, so obviously you have a lot less top end speed and corner speed, so they catch you very quick, so it's better to just try and stay out the way. On straights, particularly a track like this, it has quite a few straights, so it's easy, just stick to one track and then the GT3s will just fly past you. Or sometimes coming up to the corners where you got the slowed speed stuff, you just break in a straight line, maybe go offline at the corner, say for example the hairpin, just go deeper and just let the GT3 just on the inside, because they have a lot more grip, so you just stay out the way as you can and then just try and carry on whenever you can.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Also, second place in the GT4s, Michael. Is he here? Hi, Michael. So, second place. Happy?
Yeah, I was really happy with that. I actually think I was pleasantly surprised at the way the GT3s and GT4s mixed. I think everybody had sort of great respect and didn't mind us puddling around the track like that. Yeah, and then, towards the end of the race, I don't think there was a chance of catching, but I had a drive through and then just decided to settle in second and keep it clean, really.
Very sensible. So I noticed at the beginning of the race, on the warm-up lap, did you find the grass? Was that you, Michael? I believe I saw a orange Porsche venturing into the grass on the warm-up lap.
Yeah, I was swinging the car left and right and I thought I'd test out the grass as well.
Very well done. And finally on the podium for the GT4s, Damie Ao.
Hello.
Hello, Damie. What happened at the start? You started from the pit lane.
It would help to turn on my ignition at the start, and I got cut out. So yeah, spent the whole race trying to catch up with the rest of the pack, and yeah. I have to.
You did a good job to come back to third place, though.
I'll take it. I'm still upset with myself, but I'll take it. So.
Do you think you had the pace to get slightly further up?
Yeah, I could probably give second a run for the money, but first I was way out on my pace. He was a full second faster in quali. I would have had to get lucky with traffic to get past him, but anything happens in a race, doesn't it? So just gotta get in position and hope.
Perfect. Thank you, Dami. And thank you to all the drivers and to all of you watching at home. We hope you've enjoyed round 5 of the CSM ACC Championship here at Misano. Join us next Sunday where we will be at Barcelona, and I'm sure a couple of the drivers will be looking to stake their claim to another victory. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.